In the year 1100, the largest city in North America stood along the Mississippi River with a population greater than London. Its central pyramid rose 10 stories high, dominating a skyline of plazas, temples, and thousands of thatched homes stretched across 6 square miles. By 1400, it was empty, and European colonists who arrived centuries later never knew it had existed. The people who built it left behind no writing system, yet they engineered earthworks so precise that modern archaeologists still debate how they achieved such mathematical accuracy without metal tools. I have spent years studying what remains of this civilization, and AI Reconstruction now lets us walk through a city that ruled the heartland of a continent, then vanished so completely that even its true name was lost. At the heart of Cahokia stood Monks Mound, the largest earthen pyramid north of Mexico, covering 14 acres at its base and rising 100 feet in 4 terraces. It contains approximately 22 million cubic feet of earth, all moved in baskets without wheeled transport or pack animals. Construction likely began around 900 CE and continued in phases for over 2 centuries, each generation adding to the work of the last. The summit once held a massive wooden building approximately 105 feet long and 48 feet wide, with walls made of red cedar posts. This structure was larger than a modern basketball court, visible for miles across the floodplain. A monument to both engineering and belief. It took more earth to build this single monument than stone to build the Great Pyramid of Giza. Yet most Americans have never heard its name. Picture this. You stand at the base looking up. The slope rises in steps, each terrace distinct, and at the top, the cedar posts of the Great Hall catch the morning light. Around you, thousands of people move through the plaza, some carrying baskets of corn, others clay pots, still others pulling sledges loaded with timber from the river. The air smells of wood smoke and the river itself, a living city in motion, and you are standing at its center. But the mound was never alone. It anchored something far larger. South of Monks Mound stretched the Grand Plaza, a 50-acre ceremonial and public space kept carefully leveled and cleared for gatherings of thousands. Workers resurfaced this plaza at least 7 times, each time hauling in sand and clay to maintain a perfectly level field, an act of continuous civic labor that lasted generations. Cahokia's layout followed a precise grid aligned to the cardinal directions, with neighborhoods organized around smaller mounds and plazas, each one part of a carefully planned urban design. At its height around 1100 CE, the city held an estimated 10,000 to 20,000 people within the core urban area, with perhaps 40,000 in the greater Cahokia region. They maintained a public space larger than 10 football fields for over 2 centuries, yet left no trace of the ceremonies that must have filled it. Step into the plaza on a summer afternoon. The ground is hard-packed, nearly white in the sun. To the north, Monks Mound rises like a wall. To the east and west, smaller platform mounds frame the horizon. Hundreds of people gather in clusters. Some watch a game played with a stone disc and long poles. Others sit in the shade of temporary awnings. No grass grows here. This is not a field. It is a stage. What held all of this together was not just labor, but belief, and that belief had a center. Cahokia built at least 5 versions of a large timber circle over time, each consisting of tall red cedar posts arranged in precise circles up to 410 feet in diameter. Posts were positioned to mark solstices, equinoxes, and other solar events when viewed from a central observation post, a calendar written in wood and shadow. One post aligned perfectly with sunrise over the top of Monks Mound on the spring and fall equinoxes, connecting the movement of the sun to the architecture of power. The builders had to replace the entire circle multiple times, not because the posts rotted, but because they deliberately dismantled and rebuilt it in slightly different configurations. This suggests evolving religious or astronomical knowledge, a tradition that adapted and refined itself across generations. They tracked the heavens with wooden posts that have entirely disappeared, leaving only the holes they once stood in. Imagine standing at the center pole before dawn on the equinox. Around you, a ring of posts rises twice your height, dark against the fading stars. To the east, the sky begins to pale. You wait. Then, precisely between two posts, the sun breaks the horizon, and directly beyond it, the silhouette of Monks Mound, aligned as if the earth itself were built to receive the light. This precision did not come from isolation. Cahokia was connected to a world far larger than itself. Archaeologists have found materials at Cahokia from across the continent: copper from Lake Superior, mica from the Appalachians, seashells from the Gulf of Mexico, and stone from the Midwest and Great Plains. Cahokia's influence shaped the Mississippian culture that spread across the Southeast and Midwest, with dozens of smaller sites adopting its mound-building traditions and religious iconography. At its peak, the city functioned as a political, economic, and spiritual hub for a network of communities stretching hundreds of miles in every direction. But by 1200, the population began to decline. By 1350, the city was largely abandoned, though scholars still debate whether climate change, resource depletion, political collapse, or social upheaval was the primary cause. Some evidence suggests people did not simply leave. They may have deliberately dismantled certain structures and filled in important buildings, as if ritually closing the city, marking an end with the same care they once marked beginnings. It took 3 centuries to build and barely one to empty, leaving behind only silence and earth. The plazas emptied. The posts of Woodhenge rotted and fell, and within a few generations, even the memory of what it had been faded from the land. Today, Monks Mound still stands in a state park near Collinsville, Illinois, across the river from St. Louis, surrounded by highways and suburbs built by people who for centuries did not know it was there. There are no written records to tell us what the people of Cahokia called themselves, or what they believed when they stood in that plaza, or why they left. All we have are the mounds, and the holes where the posts once stood, and the quiet weight of knowing that a civilization rose, flourished, and disappeared before history could record its name. If there is another lost place you want me to reconstruct, let me know in the comments.